Okay, welcome back to the Adventure Within channel. My name is Andrew Fritz, and today we have an interview with William FitzRoy. He's not your typical spiritual teacher. Equal parts mystic and pragmatist, channel and strategist, he walks a line between the ancient and the modern with grace, grit, and a little irreverent humor. As the founder of the Art of the Seer Academy, William has become a trusted guide for those ready to deepen their psychic awareness, reconnect with their spiritual gifts, and step into their intuitive power without losing their sense of humor or grounding in the everyday world. For over 2 decades, William has studied and practiced clairvoyance, mediumship, and energy healing through a blend of esoteric disciplines, mystical traditions, and lived experience. But what sets him apart isn't just his knowledge, it's how he translates it. His teaching demystifies the psychic path, cutting through the fluff with a steady, compassionate voice that invites students into their own wisdom. He teaches not as a guru, but as a grounded guide who's been through the fog and is now holding a lantern for the next traveler. Hey, William, welcome to the show.
Hey, Andrew. It's
Good
good
to
to
see you.
yeah,
Yeah.
good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to reconnect with you and have this conversation and just kind of see where it goes. I thought I'd kind of start things off a little different today with this interview, and I know you've had multiple near-death experiences. That small little topic, I'm sure, but any that you want to share, as
Yeah,
far as maybe if you want to start with kind of what was happening physically with some of them, and then kind of lead into some of the what was on the spiritual side of things with them.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I've had actually three near-death experiences in my life. One when I was very, very young. I was 2.5 months old, so like I don't
Hmm.
really remember anything about that. I remember kind of what I've been told about it. And then one in 2012 while I was scuba diving in Mexico, which was pretty wild. Uh,
Yeah.
I imagine you're asking about my most recent, which was almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years ago next week, actually.
Okay.
I had a heart attack, um, and it's funny kind of how I got there. So I think to give it context,
Hmm.
uh, like a lot of people during COVID and sort of the COVID experience on the planet,
Sure.
on both a personal and sort of professional level, really, I had this experience of like kind of everything falling apart, like all
Hmm.
the carefully constructed identity pictures and like
Yeah.
my business, my life, like the life I had constructed to that point, because of all the changes that were going on and because of everything that was happening. The image I kind of see is like it's like sand on a beach, like eroding with the water. Like the water was lapping up kind of further onto the beach. And so it was like eroding the sandcastles in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was living in Portland, Oregon. I had been living there for 7 years. I had a
Mm.
psychic school there called Portland Psychic School that I had been running
Mhm.
with some friends. And we pivoted to being online. We were mostly in person,
Mm.
and that was that worked well enough, but like not really, like not in the same way that things have been working in person for us. And
Right.
structure of all that was sort of collapsing and falling apart, taking away a lot of the in-person stuff. I felt very isolated and kind of alone in Portland in a way that I hadn't ever felt in my life.
Hmm.
So kind of like everything was kind of falling apart, I guess is the way I describe it.
Yeah.
And because of my psychic training, um, I knew not to resist that
Mm.
and had the tools to kind of create space for that to happen, which I was very grateful for at the time. I was very conscious of it at the time of like, don't hold on too tight to anything, and like things are falling apart, so we got to let it fall apart.
Sure.
Um, but what I didn't have, what I didn't have the tools to deal with was kind of my own personal health and
Mm.
the effect of some of that stuff on me personally. So there was a psychological component to that. So I was living downtown,
Mm.
uh, and the space we were using for Portland Psychic School was also downtown Portland, and there were the Black Lives Matter riots were like right outside our door.
Oh, wow.
The whole thing. Downtown Portland was kind of a mess.
Mm.
The municipal government, like, was struggling just like everywhere else. But
Yeah.
remember, there were days where I was like walking over what I think were probably dead bodies on the
Mm.
sidewalk to get into our office.
Oh, wow.
Like drug addicts that had died overnight, and Like
Right.
it was pretty intense, I have to say. And while I had the tools to kind of like work through it on kind of like what I would say is like a mid-level, like of like the business and the communities that I was in, like I could kind of manage that energy. What I didn't have the awareness and tools to manage was kind of my own growth period within all that, right? Like personally.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really paying attention to it as much as I probably could have.
Mm.
Fast forward, I held off getting COVID most of the time. I was vaccinated. And happy to be. I know a lot of people decided not to, which is I don't have a problem with.
Sure.
But I was vaccinated and took all the precautions I could.
Mhm.
And then finally got COVID during Omicron, which was kind of right at the end. It was like one of the last waves of COVID that came through.
Okay.
And then like 2 months after that, I had a lot of like long COVID symptoms. So my body really didn't handle the COVID very well, although I was grateful that I wasn't hospitalized with COVID.
Right.
And ended up getting acute onset type 2 diabetes,
Mm.
which they think was because my endocrine system got all messed up from COVID and maybe even the vaccine and like who knows, whatever.
Right.
And so was in the hospital for 10 days getting my blood sugar regulated. They couldn't get it regulated. It was like a whole thing. Got out of the hospital and was like, oh, I guess I'm diabetic now, which was wild.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really pre-diabetic. And then about 3 months after that, ended up having a heart attack because my blood sugar was high for so long, they think during COVID. So like it kind of all compounded on top of each other.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a long story of like how I got to this moment of like what I really see as the energy of all the things that I was handling kind of finally made it in to really affect my body in a way that I didn't quite have the tools or mastery of tools to maybe hold off or even, hold outside of my space in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that. I didn't have the actual, like the near death experience part. But I mean, in some ways, it is kind of like a dying process, right? Especially if it's on an identity level and things are falling apart all around that. Like I was recently in Hawaii and decided to blow up a a career as I've been known to do. And so it's interesting because I can relate to you where like you're conscious of kind of what's happening and you have some tools to kind of work through it. Um, how did you navigate? Like, did you handle energy from other people around you that were like, "What's going on with you? Are you okay? Or why is this happening?" Because like for me, it was like from the outside looking in, it's like, "Whoa, this is terrible." But then as a psychic, you go, "Hey, yeah, this is kind of rough, but like this is exciting because it's going to lead to somewhere better." Just give me a little bit of time, I'll get there, you know?
Yeah, even if that better is like not here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like cool.
yeah,
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 yeah, I think, having a business that's failing and being feeling very responsible for the clients of that business and for like we had a staff of 7 at
Oh wow, okay.
that time. Everybody was contractors, but
Yeah, yeah,
very responsible for making sure everybody was getting paid something every month to,
sure.
we were at, the world was kind of in crisis. Um, so yeah, I think definitely like the energy I was handling from everyone around me that was kind of tangentially attached to all the things I was responsible for,
Yeah,
definitely had an impact on me physically, and psychologically and emotionally and all those things, but energetically for sure.
sure,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and then you asked about sort of the spiritual component of it. I really
Mhm.
see the heart attack as the culmination of that falling apart. Like everything had collapsed and fallen apart until finally it was like I had to fall apart and sort of collapse at the core of it.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, having, I called 911 and these big burly firemen came in and like picked me off the cat, like, I mean, it was a full on like heart attack. I was not, I was barely lucid.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the ambulance on the way to the hospital and I asked the EMT, I was like, I'm having a heart attack, right? And he was like, well, I don't want to freak you out, but you are. And I was like, okay. And I remember that moment very clearly. It was the most lucid I think I was in that whole experience. Laying on that gurney in the back of the ambulance, this guy's telling me you're having a heart attack. And I was like, I remember thinking like, am I ready? Like, is this,
Mm,
and I was so neutral to that in a certain way, that I think other people might find off-putting or uncomfortable.
hmm.
'Cause I was pretty neutral, and I was like, I was like, I've done some cool shit.
Yeah.
I was like, if this is it, like, I'm kind of okay with that. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's more I want to experience in this lifetime and
Sure.
with people that I'm in relationship with, but I was like, no, I think like I'm cool. Like at this,
Yeah.
like I'm
Yeah.
good. Um, and I actually think that that level of neutrality and kind of non-resistance to the experience helped me not only move through it faster energetically, but come out on the other side much faster. Like
Mm,
I didn't get tangled up or caught in a lot of emotion about it. And so when I got to the hospital and, we went through the whole thing, I had a stent put in. It was, I had my sense of humor through the whole thing. I was like, okay, we're going to try that and we'll see if that works. And
yeah.
I feel like the nurses and doctors were a little like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
kind of panicking? And I was like, oh, I don't know. That sounds good. Let's try a stent. I don't know. If that's what
Yeah.
you recommend. It
Right.
was
Right.
almost like it was almost like asking the waiter what you should have for dinner. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
What
if
do you
you,
think? What's the?
that's what you'd order, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
Um, and then, coming out of that experience, I feel like I was able to put together a whole new picture of my life and who I am in it, like much faster
Mm,
after that experience. So only 3 years after that experience, I feel so much more myself. I feel like every aspect of my life, while not perfect, is like actually much more reflective of who I am in
mm,
spirit in a way
yeah.
it wasn't before the heart attack. And even like looking back at Portland Psychic School and that experience, like I'm like, oh, who was that? Like that, none of that was the way I would do it. Like,
Mm,
so I feel like coming out of that, the neutrality and the tools that I had helped me not only get through it, but helped me then create new pictures afterwards much faster.
yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I guess that like just having that neutrality and that amusement, that's like a good sign of it. Like, okay, when it really comes time to like physically, when the body's put down and it's done, that you're like, oh, I think I'll be okay. Like, I got this. Like, is that kind of like reassuring that you like already have that experience and that kind of you'll have that later on?
Yeah, and I think that's like I don't know, and I certainly don't, no one listening, please put me on a pedestal or like take this as me saying I have anything figured out because I don't have anything figured out. But what I do know is that I think I know myself on such a level that that's not scary,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Awesome. Well, I want to circle back. So years ago, you kind of, I guess, can you give the lead up to discovering and finding a psychic school in Chicago, kind of when this whole, at least that part of your journey began? Could you kind of circle back to that?
Yeah. Um, the way that I frame this is like I never understood. I would never have called it being psychic, you
Hmm.
know, this awareness to energy or sensitivity to energy, the way that we talk about it.
Yeah.
I always thought it like I think I spent most of the first third of my life like placing that into other pictures or other ideas of what that was. So
Hmm.
when I was young, I was very creative, very imaginative. Looking back, I was like hyper aware of
Hmm.
beings and guides and all that kind of stuff, but they were like imaginary friends, which I think is pretty common for
Hmm.
kids. But I would have been called, super imaginative or creative or whatever we would call. So I kind of leaned into that creativity and was very active in the arts and theater and sang in a lot of choirs and found community in that way. And I think I always thought like that this weird thing that I do that's so natural to me, that must be just like what theater people do or what like
Hmm.
creative people do, right? So where are the creative people? Those are the people that are going to be like me, right? And then, got into sort of high school and undergraduate. I studied theater in college and was like, oh, that's like definitely not what theater people do. Like that's not a commonality of theater people. Like sure, there are theater people that I think are sensitive like that, but that's not what that means in a way.
Yeah.
And then, in undergrad, like was on my personal journey of kind of like coming out as gay and
Hmm.
acknowledging that about myself. And I think when I came out, I was like, oh, it must be I'm gay. So this is what gay people do or what gay people are like is
Ah,
the
okay.
sensitivity.
Hmm.
And then all you have to do is like just start dating as a gay man to realize that like, no, that's not commonality that all gay people have.
Yeah, right.
There certainly are gay people who are sensitive or aware of being sensitive, but that's not the commonality in that community either.
Right.
So I think my whole life I was like looking for a sense of community around people that are like me or do this thing, have this awareness that I had.
Hmm.
And I kept trying to find that in different places. And then I moved to Chicago after college. And I think what happened for me was a lot of the community structures that I had um, found safety and comfort in, whether that was like the arts or college itself or educational structures and things like that,
Hmm.
like fell apart. And I was just like a early 20s professional, like living in the city.
Yeah.
And without those structures around me, like kind of really quickly lost my my sense of self because it wasn't actually centered within me. It was centered outside of me in these communities, right?
Yeah.
So very quickly, like basically was a hot mess.
Yeah.
Like looking back at that time, I was like, what a weird little dude. I was just like blown in the wind. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea, how to create a sense of safety for myself or a sense of self even. And I remember I was like really, really struggling and really, really seeking answers to these sort of fundamental, like, who am I? And like,
Hmm.
I had this awareness of I can look at another person and tell you who they are, but
Right.
I have no sense of looking at myself, right?
Mm.
And see myself.
Hmm.
And I had a roommate at the time, and she was like taking a meditation class, and I remember she came home from the first class, and I was like, "How was your class?" And she was like, "I didn't like it." She's like, "But I think you would really like it." And she was
Okay.
like, I think you should take this class. And I think she actually dropped out. I think she like really didn't like it. It like wasn't for her, but
Yeah.
she was like, I think you need to go take this class. And so like the next round, I went to their website or whatever, and the next round of classes I like signed up.
Yeah.
And it was at a psychic school. And I had no idea what that meant. And like I was just desperate to find anything really that
Hmm.
would speak to me at that point. And so I remember going to that first class and it was like a 2 hour class. There was like a break in the middle.
Hmm.
And I remember going up to the teacher at the break and saying, I have no idea what this is, and I don't even know what it means. Like you're saying this is psychic. I don't understand that. I
Yeah.
was like, but whatever this is, the last hour is like everything I've been waiting for someone to teach me my whole life. Like I don't know what this
Uh,
is, but this is speaking to me on such a deep level.
hmm.
And the teacher just kind of laughed and was like, "Yeah, stick around. I don't know. It's kind of like what we do here." And,
Yeah.
and I ended up sticking around. I ended up studying there for like about 10 years and
Hmm.
ended up teaching there eventually for a while and
Hmm.
met some really amazing people in my time there. Really felt community for a long time in the people that were there. And really that saved and changed my life, I think, that experience. So that's kind of how I got into all this stuff. But I like never ever would have thought this is what I would be doing.
I can relate to that. Even what you're talking about, because I was in Chicago and I was in an art school and I dropped out and started kind of doing similar energy work and like I was a hot mess as well. So I can relate to that a lot. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I remember that's when we met. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
meeting you at that time. Like, yeah, I think there was a little group of us that were kind of hot messes. Like,
Yeah.
found that place all together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people just aren't aware that there's these modern day mystery schools or psychic schools or whatever you want to call them. Like they exist, they're out there. Um, I guess so. You took a meditation series. I'm not sure what else you did, but you eventually took the year-long clairvoyant training there. I guess to you, like, what is a people don't know what a clairvoyant training is. Like, what to you, what is a clairvoyant training? And is there any experiences that you want to share from that year-long journey?
Sure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I like what and I'm gonna go ahead to come back to this a little bit.
sure,
What
sure.
I'm most interested in as a teacher of this kind of stuff now is I do think we're in a time of reframing. I
Mm.
think spiritual information goes through evolution, kind of just like everything else.
Hmm.
I was speaking to somebody the other day about psychic, and they were like, I don't like the word psychic, I like intuitive. And I was like, yeah, and like, you
Yeah,
know, 100 years ago, we would have called you a witch. So, like, I don't know, like the name
yeah.
changes and evolves over time. Our like mutual understanding of it
Hmm.
has new form and new pictures.
Hmm.
So, as we talk about like what clairvoyance is and mediumship and kind of all these psychic abilities, like what I have really spent the last 5 years of my practice doing is kind of deconstructing all that and breaking it down and then trying to assemble it in new structures and a new package that speaks to what people are not what they're looking for today, because I think part of being a teacher is giving people what they don't know they want in a
Uh,
way. Like
yeah.
people think they know what they want, but they don't. You got to give them what they don't know and what they don't think they want.
Yeah.
But I do think attention spans have changed. I think the way people learn has changed. I think teaching primarily online has like really radically changed the way people experience psychic work in the body.
Hmm.
So I'm really interested in the future of kind of clairvoyance and mediumship and like how to speak to students that are looking for that now, but also the students that are coming in 10 years that are maybe in their late teens and going to be in their late 20s, kind of like we were in 10 years. And
Yeah.
what are the structures those people are going to be looking for in 10 years?
Ah, okay.
So now to come back to what you were saying, I think what the essence of a clairvoyant training is or clairvoyant study is similar to me to that which what an artist has to go through to find their own unique voice as an artist.
Hmm.
And those two paths are very parallel to me. I come from a background in theater and studied theater for a long time, and as a theater director have worked on a craft of how do you get an artist or an actor. And when I say actors, I mean actors who are artists, not celebrities, which is like a differentiation I make,
Oh
like
yeah, sure.
actors who are actually into the craft of acting, not just celebrity.
Right.
uh, there is a way in which there's a way in which as an actor to become the channel for a character who is not you but has similarities to parts of your own inner life.
Hmm.
Alchemy, right? Like when you watch an actor portraying a character and there's something inside of the actor that connects to the character that allows that character to uniquely be portrayed in that moment by that person.
Hmm.
That to me is so similar to the experience of being a reader saying hello to an energy in someone else's space where you're saying hello to someone clairvoyantly. This is what I see is happening in your aura, or this is what I see a potential future is in this situation.
Hmm.
That there's a connection to something that's happening inside of you at the same time as seeing it,
Hmm. Yeah.
that those are the same, right?
Mm.
So there's an element of the artist's journey of how do you learn a form like painting or sculpting or acting, right? And you have to like sort of mimic the masters and learn a form. And then the idea is you let the form go because
Yeah.
you have embodied it or internalized it enough that now you are just speaking from the form as yourself, right?
Hmm.
So to me, what a good clairvoyant training is it's a structure that changes the way you see things to be more aligned with how you see yourself in spirit.
Mm.
And then if it works correctly, like goes away.
Mm.
Like the structure and the form of that should fall off and fall apart so that then you start to be yourself and that connection to self is the thing that I think is the essence of clairvoyance. It's
Uh,
speaking not from programming or from your pictures or from conditioning or from trauma or pain in your space, but speaking from yourself and being
mhm.
able to see someone and say what you see in kind of like a really essential and true way.
Yeah, I like that. That's really well put. Um, do you feel that some of the stuff that was happening in your life before you like entered that year-long clairvoyant training like was totally not a coincidence? Like the things that were kind of coming undone and falling apart was just really you prepping to get into that training and kind of work through some of this stuff?
Yeah, 100%. In the
Yeah.
same way that I think, to call back to the first story we talked about, like the same way that my life was falling apart before the heart attack, and
Yeah.
then like the thing had to happen. So there's always, like life, I think energy moves in cycles, right?
Mhm.
So there's always a decay and a falling apart before you get to the essential thing that once, that thing is given light or, attention is put on it, like then it can kind of blow up or
Yeah.
and then there's room for something new to come through. I think, yeah, I was definitely in a cycle like that.
Yeah. Is there one moment or experience through that training that like like stands out to you that comes to mind? You're like, oh, that was a really interesting reading you did, or it could just be something a meditation in class, or just going about your day-to-day life and during that year.
I barely remember that year. That was so long ago.
I know it really was, yeah.
No,
That's
but actually I do. I have one thing. It's not
okay.
quite what you're asking, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Sure.
So there were like I think 8 or 9 of us in that class, and it was in person. So
Yeah.
I was going there almost every day. I think
Hmm.
not only class but practice readings and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember we were. This is what I loved so much about it. I remember we were in this like little classroom, and it would like the lights were dim. It was very atmospheric,
Hmm.
like and I'm a theater guy, so I kind of like that spoke to me on a certain level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our teacher was sitting at the front of the room and was like, talking about something. And, we were all like rapt with attention. It was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever, I don't know. I don't know what this is, but I'm so into it. Right.
Yeah.
I remember like iPhones had just come out. I think this was like maybe the second iPhone. It was like iPhone 3 or something. I don't know, like one of the
Mhm.
early ones.
Yeah.
Um, she had her iPhone on the table because I think she was recording on it in a voice
Mm.
thing, but like she had the iPhone on the table next to her. And because it was a glass table and it was a metal iPhone, the heat from the iPhone made the iPhone start to spin on the glass table.
Uh-huh.
And you could have heard a pin drop. We were all like, what is even happening? Because I think thought that she was like making the phone spin with energy or something. It was like,
Yeah.
looking back, I mean, I can explain that with physics, looking back, like it was a
Y-
hot metal phone on a table, so it was spinning.
Yeah.
But what I remember so much about that and why I'm bringing that up is that was such a profound memory because it just felt like magic. It just
Mm.
like everything about what we were talking about, everything about what I was being taught, everything that I was learning how to do for myself in energy management, in reading energy, and like interact being in relationship and the energy that happens in relationship with things and people and spaces.
Hmm.
It just felt like magic. And
Hmm.
it felt so much like magic that I was willing to believe that magic was happening.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And like that's what I remember most about that year is that feeling of the possibility of magic. And I
Mm.
think learning how to be clairvoyant and learning how to be psychic gave me that back. And I don't think I would have that in my life. I don't think I would have a sense that like magic is like real and that you can create it and it's happening all around you
Hmm.
had I not gone through that experience.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I agree with that and totally relate. Yeah, yeah, because I had a lot of limitations, so I can going through that really blew open a big door for me as well. So I know you took multiple trainings, but one that I'd like to kind of touch on, just because I think everyone finds this kind of topic fascinating. I think you went through at least probably a year of it, where you started to explore dreaming and the astral body and learning to give and receive astral body healings. Can you talk about any experiences from that?
Yeah, what was funny is if I remember correctly, and I perhaps don't, because it's been a long time
That's
and
okay.
I've lived a lot since
Yeah,
then.
yeah. Sure,
Like,
sure.
memory gets funny. I think I was living in San Francisco when I took an astro
Mm.
training, and I think I did that remotely. And
Ah.
it's funny to think back to that time. This was probably like 2008 or 9 or something, or somewhere
Mm-hmm.
around there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, um, they would bring in the like no one was doing anything online. Like online with like FaceTime had just come out, I think. So it was like,
Yeah.
this world we live in now where everything is virtual, like you and I even sitting here on Zoom, like would have been absurd to us
Right.
back. Like it just didn't exist, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
It is. Yeah.
Like how much the world has changed in just like 15 years. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember at that time it was like revolutionary. It was like I was like I want to take this training from San Francisco, and they were like, we don't know how to do that, and I was like, I don't either, but like let's make it up, let's figure it out. Like I'm into it.
Yeah.
And I remember them bringing like a whole iMac,
Mm.
like, and putting it on a chair in the classroom
Yeah.
and then like my head's on the chair as if I was like in the room, and I couldn't see anybody else. All I could see was the teacher because it was like the computer was on it. I don't know, it was a very strange thing.
Yeah.
um But what was cool, and I think what was kind of prescient about like what was coming in the future of psychic training, and like this is where I get very interested in like the future of
Mm.
kind of information and teaching, and like where is it evolving? Because I think on some level there's a group of us that were here at a certain time, and that's kind of we're like ahead of the curve in a certain way, and we're like on the forefront of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember at that time being like, how wild is it that I am in San Francisco? I was like laying on my bed with my computer facing my bed, and them having a computer on a chair in a classroom in Chicago, and like all these students like standing around a computer, like healing my body. And I could feel it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could really feel it. And I could really have the experience of those healings remotely, which is different than being like, oh, I'm going to give you a remote healing and then I'll like send you a voice memo of like what I noticed, which I think
Yeah.
was like what people were doing at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of the real time connection over video.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, to answer your question and why I'm using this story is I think the immediacy of virtual training has actually evolved, and I think the human body has evolved to
Mm.
meet that immediacy in a certain way. And
Mm-hmm.
what I remember most about that training is the serendipity of having moved out of Chicago and being in a perfect position to ask to do that remotely, and then
Mm.
at the astral body training being kind of specifically attuned to remote work
Yeah.
at that moment.
Mm-hmm. No, I
I don't
love
know if
how
that
that
makes
all. No, it does. I love how that all kind of um just the timing of everything kind of all worked out. Just being able to be a part of that. That was kind of like a new thing. Like I remember back in the day, like it was like Skype was like a thing for a little
sense.
bit. Like and Skype, it seems like kind of archaic now. Like I don't. Do they use? I don't know if they use that still. I don't know.
I think it just went out. I think they just shut it down like 3 weeks
Okay.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and then I know you went on to do you've done many trainings. But there was one, I guess some people call it like the one-to-one, some people call it spiritual autonomy. I believe even you even teach this as well. Can you talk a little about like what is that? And then maybe any experiences that you want to share from that. It's pretty profound.
Yeah, I offer a version of that. Mine's like I said, I've been sort of deconstructing, so mine's a little bit different. I do it
Sure.
I teach that as a group training rather than a one-on-one. There's
Mm,
one-on-one components to it, but
sure.
we do it as a group. I really believe strongly in the power of community in this
Mm,
work. And while I think there's always space for one-on-one components and one-on-one work, I think there's a element of energy work and spirituality in this vein that gets very isolating. And certainly right now, I
Yeah.
think we're handling enough isolation in the world in general that something
Yeah.
is kind of lost when there isn't a community component.
Sure.
Um, but that said, it's my favorite thing that I've ever done, and
Mm.
it's what I consider the most essential. When you look at kind of the trajectory from meditation, which is kind of just learning to put your attention on your own inner life and then like
Mm.
what to do with what you find there as meditation.
Mm.
And then clairvoyance is kind of activating your third eye or your sixth chakra and like moving into your ability to see and direct energy, clairvoyantly with your spirit.
Mm.
And then from there, the sort of like two deeper parts of that is a deeper level of self and then a
Mm.
deeper level of not self.
Mm.
And the deeper level of self to me is spiritual autonomy or, the one-to-one information.
Mm-hmm.
To me is like, great, you know how to work with energy. Now, like, can you work with the deepest and most profound energies that are actually affecting your
Mm.
life, the trajectory of your lifetime, and change that.
Right.
And so that I think that is the thing that I was most looking for when I found this work.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that was profound in my own healing journey was like truly being able to look at yourself and like what you see.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see that.
I yeah, I think the school we went to broken down in different ways. I kind of took a 6 month version of it. And I remember being in there where I was like, okay, we'll look at maybe your most recent past life. And I was like, oh, I've never looked at that. And he's like, what do you mean you never looked at that? You've been through a year-long clairvoyant training. You've never looked at that. I'm trying to avoid and resist it at all costs. And then so he made me look at that right then and there. And um, yeah, that was a really cool training.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
The other side of that, which is super fun, is mediumship, which I think
Yes.
is like the opposite of that. So like if
Yeah.
that one or spiritual autonomy is like truly knowing yourself, the self, right?
Hmm.
I think mediumship is the opposite. It's knowing that which is not you in a
Mm.
very intimate and profound way. And so being able to like move yourself out of the equation and like be something else,
Yeah.
me would be the dichotomy to that. So I think that's always such an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. And is that so? I know you've taken multiple trainings of trance mediumship. Is that one you found? Was that the one that really called or spoke to you to the most, or out of everything you've done? Or
Yeah, it was the easiest one for me. I
oh,
think
okay.
I think mediumship is like the thing that I've always known how to do. Like I've always known how to be not me in a certain way.
Mm.
And to like tune into other energy and run that through me, or to tune into other energy and let that kind of drive. I think that's part of why I was such a disaster most of my
Mm.
life. I also think that's why I'm like a theater artist and why I was like acting spoke to me very early, and
Mm.
all those things have an element of mediumship kind of in it. Um, so without sounding like a jerk, I think mediumship being kind of the last of
Mm.
the sort of psychic abilities that I focused on and studied was like the easiest. And
Yeah.
partially when I was like really deep in working on my own mediumship, I was a little like, yeah, what's the big deal? I don't know. This is like, why is everybody so like charged about this? This is like fun and easy and cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I enjoy working in that space now, and I enjoy teaching that too. But I will say the spiritual autonomy,
But,
um, that is the thing that I get so lit up about sharing that with people. I just think
mm.
to me that was the whole reason I had to do this. And so I'm
Right.
much more passionate sharing that. But
That one. Okay.
yeah, but I love it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get into you as a healer. I'm sure you've taken like a basic energy healing, that type of style of healing you would give to, the astral body healings, the transmedium healings. Which is there one that you prefer giving, and then any experiences you want to share from just learning it and just being like a professional healer in the world?
Yeah. Um, I, what's funny, like I love healing. I think like many of us, I'm like a natural healer. Like, and some of that is unconscious in that you're going into spaces and just kind of healing everyone or healing everything without knowing it. And some of that is like habits of people pleasing and habits of, you know, even being a medium to a certain extent and running other people's problems through you or running other people's, pain through you to try to offload it,
Right.
So I love healing and I feel a connection to that. I think as I've gotten older and have, I think, it's funny, I haven't really thought about this, so I'm thinking about this in real time. I appreciate this question.
No, that's okay. I get the sense that like do you lean more into the teaching? Is that kind of what you're more interested in? Is that kind of where you're
Yeah, I think as I've gotten older and certainly after my heart attack, I'm less interested in healing people and I'm
okay.
more interested in teaching people how to heal themselves.
Yeah,
Feels
yeah.
more profound to me. But that said, I think that's because part of the outcome of my heart attack has been like this whittling everything down to the essentialness of it.
Mm,
What
yeah.
is what is the like essential thing here? And it's like, yeah, you could pay me $200 and I could give you a healing, and then you'll be back in 3 weeks to get another one. And
Right.
that's just a waste of my time and it's a waste of your money.
Yeah.
So why don't you give me 6 months and I'll teach you how to heal yourself? I
Yeah.
joke that on some level I'm like trying to put psychics out of business is kind of my model. Like I'm like, yeah, you could just keep going to other people for your healing, or you could learn how to heal yourself. And I feel much more attuned to that
Hmm.
these days.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, and then you've practiced and done this professionally and teach this now, but can you maybe speak a little about like what is an R reading and what was it like, giving those initially or even just kind of throughout your kind of career as a psychic in that profession?
Yeah, the form of an aura reading I think is so beautiful. Because it really is like a snapshot in real time of not only what's happening, but the interconnectedness of those things, which I think is something that I don't know what the term I would use, like amateur psychics or
Hmm.
like people who don't maybe have a form or haven't studied formal training and tools around like a form like
Hmm.
we have.
Yeah.
I think I'll just call that like amateur reading, I guess is what I'll say. But
Hmm.
sometimes that misses it. It's like, oh, like you're asking about this thing. Well, here's what I see. And it's like, great. But like without looking at how that connects to all the other areas of someone's life, like you're kind of missing the the fascia underneath all that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the aura reading is like a beautiful form to see the interconnectedness of those things and maybe speak to what's going on like just below the surface of kind of what you identify as your problem.
Hmm.
And I go back to that all the time. Like, if I'm reading somebody, one of the first things, like I might look at a picture or a symbol or something and be like, oh, it's this. And then I'm like, yeah, but like, but what does that connect to? Because
Hmm.
it's got to connect to something, right? And then that inevitably leads you on like a little bit of a wild goose chase. And the
Hmm.
reading format is just such a beautiful way to see all that with nuance and detail.
Hmm. So, do you feel it's like almost like a story unfolding that you get kind of more of the bigger picture after you kind of look at each layer kind of in the
Yeah,
aura? Is that, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
got it. Yeah.
Part of why I love reading so much is that, like as a kid, I was like a voracious reader and like I always had a book in my hand when I was a kid. And I feel like I've just replaced that with being psychic now. I'm just like reading things all the time in my mind's eye. And like, I don't even need a paperback to do that anymore. So I love the storytelling of it. And I love um, the poetry that comes with that is
Hmm.
also something that I think is cool.
Yeah. I guess that's a good segue into just kind of like the everyday psychic, just kind of in your day-to-day life where it's not the like, because sometimes when we start out with this, or people might think of, okay, I'm being spiritual now, I'm sitting down, I'm closing my eyes, like I'm meditating, and you do all that, or you give a reading or whatever it might be. But then there's this like your everyday, like, I'm in my apartment, and okay, now I'm on the train or I'm at work, and you have all these other things. I'm grocery shopping that you can still be psychic. Can you talk to that a little bit at all, or?
Yeah. I one of the things that I've learned that has been such a profound lesson to me in my trajectory, having done this as long as I have, is for a long time I tried to make this my livelihood.
Mm, I can relate.
And like any art, I think the minute you make it responsible for your rent, it like stops being an art and starts to be something else. And
Mm,
some people can make that work, and some people have found ways to make that work. And like, I'm, applaud to those people. But one of the things that happened when, my school in Portland and the heart attack, like everything kind of fell apart at that point in my
yeah.
life. What I realized was that I love doing this, and I had lost the love of that in a certain way. And that's when
Mm,
it had to blow up and had to fall apart because I wasn't actually being myself in it because I didn't really love it anymore. I was trying to figure out the game and trying to like make a game kind of work.
yeah.
Any business is a game. I mean, that's the nature of business. And so I kind of lost a little bit of my way in that.
Mm,
I mean, I bring that up because what I've learned is you have to make it work for you in your life. And sometimes that means giving professional readings, and that really works. Or maybe for a while that works. And then eventually maybe that doesn't work for a couple of years and you find something else to do that you're interested in. And then you come back to it later in a different way.
mm,
Like there's this, and I think this is like a very capitalist, very American capitalist kind of thing. It's like set up the game, get it working, and then like let it go on autopilot so you don't have to like be
uh,
kind of be present in it
yeah.
anymore. Um, and I very consciously, certainly since COVID and my heart attack, decided that that's not the way that I want to do this.
Mm,
So I'm getting to the answer to your question, which
mm,
is I've gone back to my corporate career,
mm.
uh, which I've always done sort of freelance on the side, to kind of help myself maintain a certain standard of living in a way.
Sure, yeah.
But I have gone full on in, and I love it. And I
Mm,
love it now in a way that I didn't used to because I'm no longer trying to be something other than myself, like psychic me in my corporate
mm,
job, which, has its ups and downs and
sure.
is off-putting to some people, and some people really appreciate it. And part of it has been finding clients and companies that like actually value what I bring
Mm,
as a seer. I don't call myself a clairvoyant in that space, but I am
yeah.
the one looking at patterns. I'm the one seeing a year out. I'm the one seeing the bigger picture often.
Mm,
And, even on day-to-day work, I work in a basically like a creative agency kind of
mm,
environment where we have like direct corporate clients and we're trying to fulfill projects and stuff for them. I mean, I read my clients all the time. I have a client who uh, responds very negatively to male authority,
huh.
which is something that I've read in our interaction. And
Yeah.
so I know when I go into a meeting with her, like I do not go in with any authoritative energy.
Ah, okay. You just don't resist it.
I just don't resist it. It's great.
Yeah.
Like that. I can see that about her. She's never communicated that to me. It's like I've read that.
Yeah.
I'm able to adjust my energy to now make it less resistant and less
Friction, yeah.
friction between us. And it works out really well for her. It works out really well for me. It works out really well for the project. And
Mm,
like, I don't know, it's kind of great. So
yeah.
I'm doing that all the time in my day job.
Mm,
Which is, and I have colleagues that I know, like I have a colleague who I'm not going to go into all of it, but because
yeah,
maybe
sure.
they'll listen to this someday, I don't want her to listen. But like,
Yeah.
I read my colleagues and I'm like, oh, this person is freaked out about this and is afraid of this, and probably has some trauma around this in their life, and so like, okay, I'm just going to like adjust my communication style to like
Mm,
trigger that person or not, light them up in a certain way.
yeah.
I find that so fascinating and so fun to do because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then you got to adjust again, and then you got to play, create and destroy and sort of play with different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really where I'm bringing this into my life is
Mm,
like, and what that's allowing, I think, me to do, which I'm really proud of, is have a really whole life.
yeah. Man. I can so I'm glad you brought that up because we have we share so many similarity ones that I've known from the past, but like the more you speak, I'm like, oh wow, we were very similar in ways. So I'm really glad that we're doing this.
Yeah, what's
Um,
your do you have a comparable story to that or
yeah, I mean, if you want me to share it, I'm
yeah,
more than
please.
happy to. Yeah.
I feel like I'm talking so much, please.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Um, yeah. So, God, my wife and I had a company where I was teaching meditation, she was teaching yoga. And originally we thought more people are going to lean into the yoga because it's just more accepted and more popular. And actually what happened was the psychic part of it kind of blew up more and her side with the yoga not as much. And I was just kind of like, oh, I didn't expect this. And I did that for a little while and just for a few years, and then it just fizzled out. And and so I kind of like you said, you kind of go off and do other things and eventually you kind of come back. So as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly things that have happened to me. It's like it's like you're being psychic. So it's interesting. Kind of I had things collapse recently and trying to build my own thing. And I'm starting to kind of think kind of what you're looks like you're already doing is like, okay, like yeah, and I've heard this before with artists, yeah, like the moment you try to make it the main thing, you start to even if it's something you love, if you're trying to do only that, sometimes you start to lose the passion or the fire for it, or that you're struggling to make that the main thing. So even personally, I'm just kind of like, oh, maybe it just needs to have like a balance of things that's a part of your life, and it doesn't have to be the entire thing. So yeah, I can relate
Yeah,
there.
there's just this pressure to like, do what you love. And it's like, well, sure, but you can bring what you love into what you do.
Right,
So doing of what you love doesn't have to be one thing. And,
right.
I do think culturally, I don't know that anybody's ever going to do one thing anymore. I don't think our
Yeah.
economy is set up for that. I don't think like that. I think people get bored too quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's attention spans have shifted because of technology, for sure. I know mine has. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever think about, I'm going to turn the tables here on you, Andrew.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you ever think about, I'm going to frame it in a certain picture. You tell me if you agree with this. Do you ever
Okay.
think about how fortunate we were to have found meditation and healing work pre-iPhone?
Yeah, I think about that a lot actually. I'm like so happy that we caught that right at that time. There was just less distractions. Like there was one moment in time where I can't remember what year it was, but I flew home to meet family for Christmas time, and there was one moment where I looked around, and I'm guilty of it. Like it's just them, but where everyone was looking down at their phone, and I was like, whoa! I was like, what happened? What changed? Because you and I, we grew up in a time where, internet wasn't a huge thing, technology wasn't a huge thing. Like I played outside. So I'm so happy that we were able to take classes where there was less distractions. It was in person. It was kind of a unique time. So I also love that we both have had that, but also I admire kind of you're looking to the future and seeing like what's working now and ahead. Because if you're forcing something that is in the past, it might not relate or really touch with people that are kind of what they're looking for now. But yeah.
Yeah, I also think I I don't want to say we have a responsibility because that's such a heavy word and
Yeah.
that's not what I mean, but like I also think we have a calling
Mm.
to remember what it was like before that for everyone else because at some point everyone's going to need to learn what it was like before that and we're going to remember that vibration.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I've thought that many times. Like we were kind of unique time. We're kind of lucky, and I appreciate it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, cool.
Um, yeah. So you talked about kind of being psychic in your everyday life and kind of corporate career and all that. Can you talk about your school, Art of the Seer Academy? How did that come to be, or just what are you currently offering? How do people connect with you?
Yeah, so Art of the Seer Academy is like the evolution of like I feel like all of my passions and life experiences kind of, and I'm sure it'll be different in 2 years than it is now. So like
Yeah.
the things that I'm really proud of is that as a community and as a community structure, we're always evolving and trying new things. And people get kind of irritated with me about that sometimes, but I'm like, go start your own then. I don't know. This is just how I do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's a community-based model specifically,
Mm,
in so much as there's no hierarchies certainly in it.
mm,
I think everybody is where they are on their journey and their path, and uh, we allow people that are beginners and just starting out to sit next to people who have been doing this for a long time and maybe even consider themselves teachers of the form.
hmm.
Um, so have spent a lot of time kind of breaking down a lot of the like hierarchical thinking and hierarchical structure that creates that artificial, oh, well, I know this. Do you know that? Well, you don't know that. So like, you go sit over there because you don't know that yet.
Right, right.
Because one of the things that we find as a teaching group is that like stuff that seemed esoteric 10 years ago is like, I don't know, everybody's done everything now, everybody's taken a class on everything. So
Right.
I always talk about how I remember taking a class on spirit guides or
Mm.
healing guides and being like, this is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever done. I was like, I can't tell anybody in my life that I'm doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, like, just watch TikTok. Like, everybody's talking about
Uh,
communicating with
yeah.
your guy. Like, not even weird to these Gen Y and Gen Zers.
Yep.
So, like, we've taken a lot of that out. So it's more like a community of seekers, and there's experiences that are available to people, whether it's reading practice
Mm,
sessions or healing practice sessions, classes on things like the Akashic Records or energy healing, or even my Path of the Mystic training, which is kind of my spiritual autonomy, the
yeah.
version I'm working. Um, it's kind of like open to whoever feels ready and that they're called to it.
Mhm.
Less like you have to do this and then this and then this and then this and then this to
Oh,
like
okay.
achieve whatever it is people think they're trying to achieve with this stuff.
Yeah.
So that said, it's a free membership, so it's free to anybody to join and participate in like a whole bunch of free stuff.
Hmm.
Offer free readings by members every week, free healings by members every week. We do drop-ins and workshops that are just free to come in and like try it out, see if you like it, see if it works for you.
Hmm.
And then there's electives that you can take on top of that. And some of the electives like kind of build on each other, but also like I'm kind of like if somebody's really into past lives and they just want to jump in and do past lives, like
Yeah.
come on in and take a class on past lives. Like, what are we waiting for? Like, come do the thing that you're interested in.
Right.
So very free form, very a la carte,
Mm.
very, follow your bliss.
Ah, okay. I
Just,
like that. That's
yeah.
that's cool. Um, yeah, how do people connect with you if they're like, hey, I want to learn more about you or book a session or, take a class or training? How do they connect with
Yeah,
you?
artoftheseer.academy is our website. And from there you can find a link to get in touch with me. I offer free half hour if you want to grab a coffee, meet up for a half hour, talk about like, I don't know, whatever you're interested in. I'm happy to do that with folks. Um,
Nice.
and then the rest of the faculty is on there as well. So we all offer professional readings and healings, or you can reach out to somebody and be like, this is what I'm into. What should I do? Happy to
Hmm.
give some advice or, point you in the right direction. Again, very free form. So artoftheseer.academy.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll link that below, make it easier for people to click on that and find you. Yeah, I just want to thank you for your time, for coming on here and just sharing your experiences, your wisdom. I think it just kind of flowed nicely and just kind of enjoyed reconnecting and talking with you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having me. It's been really, really joyful and nice to reconnect with you as well.
Awesome. I just want to leave this little last segment. You don't have to use it, but I always do this for everyone. If you're like, man, Andrew didn't really touch on this one topic I wanted to talk about, or I just have this final message for people that are listening. This is a good, spot to do that if you want to use it. But don't feel pressure that you have to. I just like to give that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Um, if 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 the idea of structure around being psychic and tools scares you or makes you uncomfortable, that probably means that you need it,
Mm,
is what I have found.
I like that.
In so much as like there's something you'll learn from having a structure put around it that you would naturally resist, probably because there's some trauma or there's some energy there. And so probably worth exploring even for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that's, yeah,
Yeah.
that's helped me for sure. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, yeah, thanks again for being here and sharing everything. So, everyone, thank you for tuning into another episode. We'll see you next time. Take care.